we were both probably like, interesting. This is a new dynamic.
Of course, in my mind, I was like, oh my God, she might be down for a threesome. Like that's, my male mind or
Yeah,
whatever.
and
I
I
was like,
think that will help a lot. If a lot of women start with that angle, if they can, if they want to, that is probably the best way to
that's
get a
cheat
guy to dip his toes in.
Welcome back to Open Late. I'm your host, Jessica Sfandiari, and today I have with me just this really dope couple that I found on TikTok. Dana, actually, the handle is Dana and the Wolf, but we have Dana and Daniel here, who I didn't know your real name until I was a constant viewer of your TikTok for probably a few months. And they live in LA, and they are a polyamorous couple who create a lot of really fun, funny, and pretty educational content around what it means to be in a polyamorous relationship. So I was so stoked when you said yes to coming to do the interview, and welcome to Open Late.
thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
It's always fun to meet other people who are polyamorous because Pasha and I don't really have a big community. We haven't always, I think, fostered or been intentional about, oh, let's meet other people who are open. We're pretty happy in our community as is. And as we've gotten older, we've met more people. But I know when we first connected, that's something we talked about. Like, where are the other normal poly people in the world? So, did you launch the TikTok with that intention? Like, let's be a lighthouse?
Not at all. I don't think we had that much thought behind it in the very beginning. So we wanted to be on TikTok, and we wanted, to grow a platform. But at first we were doing like funny videos of just like us around the house, and it wasn't taking off. And then I was kind of dragging my feet, because I've always dragged my feet to social media. I'm just like, why am I doing this? There's like that struggle of, you want to be seen, but then you feel bad about it. And then you see your friends, but then you're depressed and you're like, why wasn't I invited to this? Or like, they look like they're having more fun than me. All that negativity that comes with social media. So I've always been like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this.
I've always kind of been obsessed with like what's happening in the new technology, where is culture heading, like what's going on. And I was trying to understand why TikTok was starting to become so popular. And so I did like a really deep dive into like researching about TikTok and reading about it and how it was created and the algorithm and all that fun stuff, and the CEO and I was like trying to understand, like, is this somewhere we want to be? Like, do we want, is this valuable? Because like Instagram I always had problems with, and like Dana was saying, like I had to like learn about why Instagram
Yeah,
was.
you
I
didn't
did
even
not
understand.
understand
You didn't even
Instagram.
understand what people liked about it, because you were like, I don't get it. Like, why are we
Yeah,
looking at these pictures, and what do they
right.
do for us?
And how it
Right.
was like a modern day magazine kind of thing, or
Yeah.
whatever. But then once I found out that TikTok brought you like community, or it brought you more,
It was like knowledge,
it's,
community,
but it was like it connected you with people not based on
who you already
your
know.
social, yeah, who you already know, but based on your interest. And so I think I don't remember what it was exactly that I said to you that made you finally like be like,
Understand it.
I want to get on there and try and make a
It
new
was because
video.
it was during the pandemic. I was really depressed. I had gotten out of a long-term relationship. I was like, I wish I could go out and be social and like kind of get over the get over the ex and just move on. But like we couldn't, because of the
Mhm.
pandemic. So I was literally
Mhm.
like trapped inside, at least how it felt. And I was really lost. And like I said, Daniel was trying to get me to, be on TikTok with him. And I was like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. And so he finally said something to me like, what you are needing right now is community. Like, you're lonely, and people can feel lonely in a lot of different ways. And he's like, TikTok might actually be the thing that helps you get through this breakup. Or
Or
like,
like it was something about like you asked a question. You went on
well,
and the
that's what I
first,
did. I went on and
yeah,
I asked like, "Hey, so this is how my first polyamorous relationship went, and here's like kind of what I did wrong. Like, how do you guys deal with how to do this?" It was more of like a almost like a healing therapy moment, and it blew up to us like at the time. We were like, "Wow, like 11K in a day!" Like, it was so exciting.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, we just kept using it as a tool.
We kept doing like talking videos and just asking questions about non-monogamy and just talking about our experience. Yeah.
And then we came out on like Instagram and everywhere else because we were having so much fun doing that on TikTok and no one knew about it. Like we didn't tell anyone we were on there, and it was just kind of our little secret. And then we just realized, why shouldn't we be doing this on all the platforms?
It took us a while to get on Instagram.
Yeah, I think it was a while.
Wow. So interesting. Okay. I love just diving right in with that because it, I think, gives people this cool perspective that we don't often talk about on the show, which is community through social media. I felt very similar to, I think, both of you in some aspects of like, Instagram can be like the most isolating platform sometimes, you feel like, as you know, as you were saying early on, Dana, like you see people and you're like, oh, you know, you start comparing yourself. And just to know that you guys dove into TikTok as a healing modality is amazing, because we talk about that a lot on the show. Like, what can you use to process your emotions, and finding so much community in that space, yeah, at a time when the world was sort of standing still, is a nice comfort. At least I love hearing it. And so I want to like circle back now, because you mentioned a couple things, and I'm sure people listening are like, okay, wait, hold on. You were going through a breakup. Does that mean that you were together at the time and you're breaking up with like another partner? Or so take us to like how long you two have been together. Give us the origin story. And then how did the non-monogamy happen?
We'll Goodness, that's a big one.
That's a loaded question.
That's a lot of questions in one.
Hope everybody has a good half hour. Grab yourself a cup of tea. Here we go. Strap in.
Okay, well, we've been together for 15 years. We met in college, and now we're old. And we like somewhere like halfway through there got into non-monogamy. We slowly got into it. It wasn't like
it wasn't like a cut decision
moment. Yeah,
but like 7 to 8 years in, we started dabbling.
There were different kinds of reasons that we got into it. Like Dana always more naturally believed in it, or just Dana just naturally gets it. Like anytime I had questions, because I'm more of like the analytical, logical side of things, and like I'm very into the radical. I love like challenging norms and being radical. You know, whether it was through us like doing music or whatever it was, or just like before I even thought about like maybe like proposing to Dana, which I never did. We're not married. But I read about marriage because I was like, is marriage really like a thing? And Dana was never really for marriage.
Is marriage really like a thing?
Either. Yeah, is it really like a thing, a necessary thing? I guess I should say. Because we were going so strong for so many years that I was like, why get married? What's the point of it? So I read about the history of marriage.
Well, and I think it also was the fact that you were completely for it and I was completely against it when we met.
When we were in college, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think when there's that opposition, it makes sense that you were like, I should read about this, like, because it also, when he would ask me to like further explain, in the very beginning, I really didn't want to explain anything. Mm-hmm. Everything to me was a feeling, was an intuition.
Well, you also read books like Jane Austen, who didn't get married.
Sure, like there's a ton of stuff I read, but it's like I don't normally talk about why.
You've got great role models. I like it.
Yeah, but it's like I wasn't used to talking about why. I just was the way I just thought the way I thought and whatnot. So he really had to pull it out of me, and he read a lot and just took from a lot of different places.
But you always had the natural, like, perfect answers. So even when we started trying non-monogamy, I was like, I'd be like, yeah, but what about this? Like, I would go all the way devil's advocate. Like, all the comments that we get, by the way, all the shit we get aren't even shit on the arguments I had against
like he got so much deeper into, like, trying to go devil's advocate.
But you would always have the perfect natural answers, and I was always like, oh my God. So Dana definitely like naturally understood it in her bones, and I had to like logically come around to it, and now I can't go back. Like it just makes way more sense to me, and that's where we're at. But it was like a slow process, like through the media, different shows where we saw non-monogamy happening, or just like the books that we were reading and that kind of thing.
We saw a play
drugs
about polyamory.
Wait, I would love for you guys to share what those things were that you saw that were like either positive or negative, but had you start to think about it? I don't know any of these. Like, I've never seen a show. The only thing, like America's watered down version of polyamory to me is like The Bachelor and Bachelorette, and they don't even realize what, like, people aren't even looking at that as like, oh, this is non-monogamy, like, so. But yeah, what's the show? I'm like going to take notes.
Well, there was a play that we saw that was like pretty independent. Like, it was just a friend of ours knew a guy who put on a play, and it was in a really small theater in LA. And I don't even remember the name of it. We went to see it, and it was about a polycule, about like 4 people in a relationship that lived together.
I always say 9 people because it felt like it was 9
because to him, in his mind, he was like, this is crazy, but it was actually 4. And it was crazy that they were all together and they all loved each other. They all had different, sexual things together. And the other interesting thing is they were very full frontal about it, in the way that they literally had this man out just completely naked through like half of the play. We had the biggest dong we've ever seen.
Ever.
It was just flopping across the stage all throughout the time we were there. We were in like front row. Anyway.
This is incredible.
It almost hit us in the face.
It really did. Yeah. It really did. Almost knocked the peanuts right out of my hand. So, by the end of it, I think it didn't work. Like, they all broke up because one person wanted to leave the polycule, and it just broke up all the relationships as if like it needed to work with all of them or none of them.
It was kind of like Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Totally. It was like, it's all or nothing. And like, oh, you'd think that polyamory works, but really it doesn't. Like, that was kind of the storyline.
Most of the representations in media, like Vicky Cristina Barcelona, which we saw like before college, well, Woody Allen movie. But yeah, it's like, it's like.
Yes, I forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
That was another one that inspired me, because I was like, I was obsessed with that movie, and I didn't know why. I should have known why.
I mean, it's a great film.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
But we haven't.
Yeah. And also you're like, oh, am I queer? Okay. Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that was the first time where I was like, this looks like the best relationship I ever want to be in.
Yeah, like, can I join? But like, where do I sign up to be in this relationship?
Where is my role? Yeah.
Oh no, we heard somebody who watched it recently said that it maybe wouldn't hold up to today's standards of like non-monogamy or ethical non-monogamy, but we haven't seen it in like 10 years.
So I haven't watched a Woody Allen movie since all that stuff came out about what he did with his daughter, because I love Woody Allen, and so I feel like the best thing to do is just put that in a drawer of something I love.
Time capsule.
Yeah, I'm worried if I watch a video of his like now, that all I'll be thinking of is like what he did, and I won't be able to enjoy it. I'm just saying anymore.
that the movie itself was like, it gave a bad representation.
Yeah, maybe it did. I'm not sure, but ultimately, I think what it does is paint a picture. Like, even if it doesn't work, so that's what happened with the play. Even though the play ended negatively, it painted this picture for a minute, and like that is what we took from it.
It's funny because like the moral of that story and the play that we saw was probably that it doesn't work. And this is what everyone on TikTok in the comments say, the negative comments, or on YouTube they'll be like, show me a poly relationship that's lasted more than 20 years or has kids. And there are many examples. Like we've found out, we know a lot of people that have that now. But the funny thing is like they're showing a glimpse of something that can work. And their argument is that, well, it's going to end. But, like, if you look at the statistics, like, most marriages end, right? Anyway, like, in divorce, whatever. It's like, can you find a way to prolong that happiness? Probably. I mean, that's...
Well, and why does the success of a relationship mean that it has to go on forever? Like, something cool about, like, polyamory for us is, like, sometimes we'll have something intimate happen with, like, a close friend or something. And it will... maybe work for a little while, and then maybe it'll just kind of like take a natural course to like go back into friendship. But the cool thing is like most of the time you come out having a really tight friendship that may or may not have gotten intimate at some point, and everyone's, if anything, they're just closer. You just have another person that like loves you and has your back, and you love them and have their back, and you just have like a more fulfilling life. with people. So,
and by having had that, even if you're not as close anymore, just the amount that you learn from it,
sure,
and that everybody took away from it is like just so much stronger than not having been able to explore that.
And with monogamous relationships, if you break up, it makes no sense to most people to keep that person in your life, like on any level. So you're literally just cutting people out of your life like over and over. And it's weird because they were technically the most important person to you at the time when you dated them. So it's weird to me that you would want to like kick them out of your life.
All or nothing.
And all of the lives of the and all of the lives of the friends that they made in your community and the friends that you made in their community, there's usually like such a ripple effect of sort of breakup that happens where deep connected relationships can like no longer be. Or if they are, there's a taboo or people are forced to choose sides. And it's born out of such a scarcity mindset. And I'm so happy that you like started to touch on this because, going back to the original point of like, before, why does long term or forever mean success? It doesn't. That's just like the common accepted societal norm. But then even before that, it's like, think about all the relationships that are monogamous pre-marriage, because it's like, okay, we could look at all the marriage statistics that are ending, but what about the 3 long-term, boyfriends or girlfriends that you had before you walked down the aisle or whatever? And it's like those were all monogamous relationships as well then. So if you think about the success rate of monogamy, it's actually much lower than normally what we measure, because we measure marriage generally. And so most people have probably 2 to 3 plus before they even get there. So,
and it's also like, so does that mean that one person who's had like 3 relationships before marriage, like, so they've just been failing their whole life? Is that what we're saying? Like, they've just been failing with relationships their whole life until they get married. Like, that makes no sense to think that way. Like, they probably learned so much from each relationship. And if they weren't monogamous, maybe they'd still even have these great people in their lives on some level.
And it's not to say that they have to keep them in their lives anyway. Yeah. But like the option to would be nice. Because obviously if it was like toxic or something, or somebody you don't want in your life anymore,
that's different.
Then that's somebody you need to cut out. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But it's toxic to think that someone can't remain friends with someone that they want to, that they cared about at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're definitely revolutionary.
Do you want us to go back? What were you going to say?
Yeah, I don't even know
the rest of the questions.
I don't know. Did we?
Yeah,
no, we were on our way. I think we were on our way.
So yeah, you were on a good roll. Can we pick up where I think, because most people who listen to this show, one of the questions that I get a lot, and so I love to sort of let the listeners get a glimpse into, you're polyamorous now. It's pretty clear. So everybody who's listening, you have to go check out the TikTok and the IG, which we'll drop the handles in later. But it's clear to me, not even knowing you two, that you generally will like meet each other's, people that you're dating or boyfriends or girlfriends, or just like any relationship, whether it's like bilateral or not. And I don't know the specifics, but I'm imagining you didn't jump right into this polyamory, that there were different versions of opening. And so give us kind of a glimpse of the road to there, because I think it looks different for every couple. And most people, or even, people who are solo poly now, most people listening are like, okay, what road did you take? Because a lot of the listeners are just starting out.
Right. That's the same thing with our audience. I guess it's like they're wondering like how to bring it up or how to get started, or like it's very similar. I feel like, I mean, I think that's probably the whole world right now. It's like, how do we get into it? But yeah, for us it was like the slow transition. I think we did do things together. And like we didn't even know polyamory. We didn't even know the word polyamory. And I think like some of it came through partying, that kind of thing.
I think it also like fantasies kind of played a role, because we would spend time with other people, and I could tell that there was like attraction between like Daniel and another person, or between me and another person. Maybe he could sense that too. I don't know. So we would sometimes like think of those people or like mention those people and kind of get each other's, kind of gauge whether, whether he was turned on by this idea or whether he was like, went cold and was like, what the fuck are we doing right now? Like, why are you bringing this person up? So, that was a warm, like kind of there was a warmth to that. And I was like, okay, like we were both probably like, interesting. This is a new dynamic.
Of course, in my mind, I was like, oh my God, she might be down for a threesome. Like that's, my male mind or whatever.
And I think that will help a lot. If a lot of women start with that angle, if they can, if they want to, that is probably the best way to get a guy to dip his toes in.
Yeah.
And then if you want to be
easy entry point.
Go ahead.
I just said easy entry point. Yeah.
Yes. And then if you want it to kind of go towards men, it has to be kind of a stepping, if you just brought up a guy.
Here's your 5 steps to success, okay, for the woman, okay? Number 1, rope him into a threesome with a woman if you're able to do that. And,
if you want
and try not to use a woman as an object on the way. Number 2.
Right. I actually pause for a moment. I always recommend on this show too. It's like, yes, because I've learned a lot in almost 9 years of this as well. Like this is a whole ass other person. And now I've gotten to the point where when people ask me, I'm like, just hire a professional for your first time. Because like, unless you're ready to take that other person in and consider all their desires and their needs and whole tangent. But yeah, I do appreciate that this is the starting point. And yeah, like it's okay to make it easy on yourselves as a couple opening up to this.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay. Step 2.
That's a good point.
No, I'm just kind of joking about the steps, but I guess like the next step would be like turn it on him and be like, so you were okay with us being with a woman, or like, or then like, would you be okay? I guess the next step is, would you be okay with me being with that woman without you? That's kind of the next.
Yeah, that would be the next step.
That's the next step.
And then if you get like, there, totally. That would be hot, I guess. Yeah. And then the next step would be like, okay, now what if it was a guy? And then they'd be like, what? What? No, what? That you're going to get a lot of that.
And then if that, but you then you turn it on them and you say, well, then there's not.
Yeah. I was going to say, was that a direct depiction of your response, Daniel?
No.
Not necessarily, Daniel.
Actually, it wasn't.
I think it's I just picture most men would have that reaction.
So the funny thing is like when we started doing these skits, like we didn't know they were going to like blow up. So I played the villain. Like we started playing like a crazed monogamous couple. And like the comments, once we started getting the comments and everybody started holding us like extremely accountable, like this couple's fucking crazy. Like why would they like this is not monogamy.
Like we were acting and then
we didn't know it was gonna like
But they would always be like, fuck that guy and his hair, and like they'd be very like aggressive towards Daniel's literal person, and we realized that like they did not see this as an act or like as a joke.
But even when we like were clearly acting
oh my god,
even when we were clearly acting like about like pretending to be like, we called it When We Were Monogamous, and like we exaggerated a lot in that for dramatic effect.
Comedy.
Yeah, it was funnier. It was funnier if I played like the crazy monogamous guy, but then you ended up looking like a villain that was like manipulating me.
Yeah, right. But it was just constantly
it wasn't really how it went
going
down.
wrong.
We were like,
we realized that we needed to just be more honest and be more like truthful to our real like path and like how we really are with each other,
which is why we started the poly couple, because that's
kind of where that came
way
from.
Closer to like reality,
like who we really are and how we really talk and act with each other. But yeah, like we kind of make fun of the over exaggerated version of like what a monogamous sort of misogynistic man might do.
But it's so true.
If a
it's
woman
like
brings that up.
We talk to so many people and like that is the case.
That like really
that is how the men
experience.
Are. Yeah.
Like all the women
100%.
Are like, we totally get it, and then they're like, but we cannot figure out how to get our men to understand it. So there's something there that's just not breaking down.
It's just the stigma against men, being emasculated, letting their girl sleep with another dude,
being a simp, being a cuck, like
like that. That's
all negative terms.
That stigma.
To them.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just all built and founded on the idea that women are property. because it's like, what do you mean let? Which, you know, I just, yes, yes to all of this. So I need to go back in the archives, clearly, because I haven't seen these, and I can't wait to go watch this like crazy monogamer situation. So you guys got on TikTok, was it at the beginning of the pandemic?
Yeah.
No.
So
no, not the beginning of the pandemic,
Wait,
but it was in the pandemic.
It was like 2021. We missed 2020.
We did?
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe that's when we did those silly
I think
videos.
we got on like a year ago. Like it was like
we started.
So it's only been a year.
We started blowing up a year ago.
It was like April last year, I think.
And that's when we came out on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
In April. So it's been a very still
yeah.
pretty short time.
Yeah.
So it's only been a year. This is so wild. And you have how many TikTok followers?
We're almost to 300K. So it's,
wow, that's brilliant. And it's mostly haters. No, I'm just kidding. But I know, you know, what kind of comments you guys get. I've like barely had one video or two videos go viral. And, you know, it rocked me for like a good week. I thought that this stuff wouldn't bother me because it never really has in real life. But it's just so magnified on the internet. And I was like, my 13-year-old self fully came out and was like having so much shame around, you know, my own sexuality. But I'm like so glad it happened, and that it happened in a public space, because it was a cause for me to like do some healing work also, which I just love, you know, kind of how we started this episode. You can really use it for a lot of different things.
Those comments can really get you down. Like they got us down, and we like questioned ourselves. Like, or Dana was actually stronger than I was. But
what happens is Daniel always wants to reply to the negative comments, or he used to, and I would always tell him it is absolutely pointless. You will not convince everyone of the way you think or like what you believe. Like you can't change their mind. Like don't try to. There's a million people out there that you're not going to change their mind. There's no point to give them any attention. Just like ignoring bad behavior is always going to be a better move for you. You're going to think about them less. You're going to deal with them less, and they're going to go away because they're not going to get a reaction from you. So I always try to tell them that.
It's just so tricky sometimes, because sometimes they would say something right on the brink of like, is this true about our relationship? Like, are we holding resentment towards each other or whatever? Yeah. Like you really start to like question it. So I replied sometimes to like question them back, to like start a conversation or whatever. But yeah, you eventually do realize it's always born out of hate or ego or something like that. It doesn't
come from some like deeper, like it's not some Zen master telling you that you're.
It's just their own projection, right? You know, it's like. So I've gotten way better, but it's taken a long time. Like. That shit got to me. And also like our friend Pat, who's in our videos too, like he blew up on TikTok before us, so he had been through it, and like he warned us of the comments, and he does cooking videos. It's not even controversial like at all, and he gets like hate comments and whatever, and he was like, he really warned us, and he's like, you gotta just ignore those comments, like it's gonna happen, it happens to everybody, like, and we get tons of hate. Like if you look at our YouTube, all hate, like 90% on the videos. Like we can't even delete all the hate.
I will say though,
but like, TikTok is all love now.
I will say, as much as we're talking about all the hate comments, like I feel extremely supported as well. On Instagram, on TikTok, we're posting on Vero too. I don't know if you know the social media site. We're actually like working with them. Yeah. And yeah, like we do get a ton of love. We get a ton of support. And it's really the community I was looking for when I was kind of lost and lonely in the pandemic. So yeah, for all the hate, there is a ton of great, you know, reasons to be on there and support and love. So.
It's just a non-localized, globalized world now. So it's all spread out. Like we looked at our data the other day on Instagram, and like our top cities or whatever. And it's like, there's no like chunk of a city. It's not like LA, since we're in LA, is like our top city. It is our top city. Actually, New York is, I think. But it's like, it's very split. Like, it's all over. Like,
it's the like algorithm, 1% of like every city.
The algorithm doesn't discriminate like local based wise. So it's like all spread out. And that's why we're all coming together online. it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's actually similar with the podcast. Like we have listeners in every corner of the world, and it's so wild to think that, because I was like, obviously for us it's like LA is the biggest, just like very populated, and also very hippie, probably a lot of poly people in these communities, but it is very telling too that you will find people who are interested in non-monogamy all over and in every corner of the world. And most of the people who write into me are from small towns. In fact, probably 90% of the people who write in are like, I live in a small town, in this part of the country, or I'm from this place in Canada that I've never heard of, or, lots of Australia, New Zealand, like all over Europe. And so we actually started a WhatsApp chat to sort of build community as well, just in an easy way. And people are joining all of the time just to share these kind of ideas, and they're opening up stories, they're coming out stories. And it's really nice because I was doing a lot of like coaching in the DMs when like I have time, which I really love because I just love to see this work for people. But it's nice to sort of centralize it. And I don't know, you talking about how you would like how you tried to answer them. I did that too in the very beginning because I was like, this person actually seems curious. And then it was just it's so
slope.
silly. There really is no one. Yeah, very slippery slope. Very slippery. So, but I wanted to ask, where do you see this going? Because you both seem very intentional, and we chatted a little bit right before we hit record, and you were saying that you want to start to feature other poly people in your videos, and just, is that where you want to grow, just sort of putting more positive models of this out there on the platform? And like, what's the overall intention for all of this? Like, where are you two going with this?
Well, I think when we started the TikTok, like we deliberately looked at like propaganda, and because like we wanted to spread the poly propaganda, we wanted to normalize it is like the better way of putting it. But I did look at like, yeah, not propaganda, but we looked at, there's a show called Minx, which was like about the first it was like about a feminist who like
she wanted to spread like feminist information and like kind of unite women, but no all the upper, what do you call it, the people that would invest in the magazine or create the magazine with her were all men, and they were all like, fuck this, I don't want to be a part of this doesn't sell. And it wasn't until like the guy who worked with Playboy type stuff was like, oh yeah, we can market this, we'll just put naked men in it, and then that way it'll get women to buy it, and then the women can read about feminist stuff in between the pages of the dicks.
But it was like started with the idea of like, yeah, how to spread an idea kind of thing. Like literally before we were doing the skits, we were like kind of using our principles with like what we learned about social media and what we knew about polyamory to try to like normalize it. And we're musicians. That's like what our job is. Like I know it's like a sidebar right now, but no
one would ever know.
No one ever know. But we are trying to like work our way. It's been very complicated, but we're trying to work our music back into it too. And we did that at one point.
Oh, that's so cool.
At one point we did have a song that was like a polyamory song that like did pretty well on TikTok. So anyway, yeah, we're kind of all over the place. I know it's funny that you say we're so intentional, and I think we are, but like only like a couple weeks ahead of like we can't see that far into the future. Like we've tried, and the nature of the algorithm and the beast of the game, it's like
it's always changing.
Is that it's always changing, and like we keep having to adapt. Like we had plans for like storylines that have had to change because of certain factors, and like and we're just trying to be as authentic as possible, because like that also is a game in and of itself, to like see how authentic you can be to your story and like telling your story and that kind of thing. So I don't know. Yeah, it's like we're intentional, but we don't know where it's going. Like we like, I don't know if we want to talk about
what,
like the projects that we.
Yeah, we could talk about it.
Like we wrote a pilot. We wrote a TV pilot.
TV show.
We want a TV show.
We want a TV show.
But then again, we don't know if like TV is like going to be as important as like social media or like TikTok or YouTube
like
or
in
whatever
the end, maybe
is.
it would be better for us to just stay on the social apps and do whatever we want whenever we want versus like committing to a show.
Right.
But I know to us, like we're kind of like we'll take what comes. So if a show comes, we're gonna jump on it and write it hard.
Or if we make a polyamory song that like,
and if that blows up,
trends.
then we're gonna go towards that direction. So we're pretty
Right.
open to like how we normalize polyamory, but the ultimate goal is to normalize it because there's just not enough.
Right.
There's not enough of us out there, and there's not enough men that get it. There's tons of women that feel trapped in their relationships and don't know how to communicate what they want. Like, and I know it's not just like men don't get it, women do. I know it's not like that in every situation, but we get a lot of that specific problem. So I don't know. The more we talk about it, the more we get it out there. I'm hoping the more it'll help people.
Yeah, help the people who do get it and who are practicing be able to come out, because that's what I find too. Like having this show has opened my eyes to just how many people are living in the closet with their non-monogamy. And, of course, there's a ton of people who, one partner is interested and can't even bring it up. And there's obviously a ton of infidelity, which from where I'm sitting is just another form of non-monogamy, I think. And the more we can realize that that is also non-monogamy, just not consensual, that we can really start to, as a culture, understand that these things are the norm. This is how people live. We just have different boxes that we put the people in. And, one is taboo, one is shameful, one is whatever, but it's how many humans that live on this earth operate. So I love that that's the overarching goal for you too. And like, I so want to be involved in these projects because I, was an actor too at one point. And just like the theatrics of your videos really seem so fun. And like when I do have enough time to sit down and kind of like even just make some reels, I'm terrible at TikTok. Everybody listening knows this. There's like a thing like, go check out the TikTok. And then they'll go and be like, you haven't posted anything in 40 days. Okay. So that's why I'm not doing well on that platform. But I know, and all of my friends who are active on it say that it is really the best. So I'm going to take this as my kick in the butt. But I would love to collab on things. I actually had a partner, like a really great partner for about 4 years, and he worked in TV in LA. And he would tell me anytime, and this was when I was still not out. And, my husband and I practiced like our version of non-monogamy as it evolved over time for about 5 years without really anyone knowing. Like some of our closest friends in LA knew, and that was it. Mostly because of me. He was very much like, I don't care who knows, whenever you're ready, we'll come out. And I had this amazing partner, and he worked in TV, and he would tell me all the time when something would like come across his desk. He used to read scripts. That was like his thing. And he'd be like, there's something with polyamory. Like he would text me like, you got to read this. There's like a non-monogamy show. And it's funny because we would always joke that like the world probably needed a good 10 more years before you could see something on like prime time but I agree with you now. There's just so much, everything is social media based. Everything is like in the, content creators' hands, which is beautiful. But I would love to see it in more long form places. Would you guys consider just doing, like YouTube versions of your, like the show that you've written?
I don't know. I don't know why like the idea of like low budget skits on YouTube is more cringe to me than TikTok. Cause like on TikTok there's this understanding, it's like
I think there's an understanding on TikTok that it's supposed to be like chill. And
yeah,
it's supposed to be like low effort.
They understand that we're just telling the story and it's not about like the production value. And I think that if we went on YouTube, we'd have to up the production value and it'd be like higher budget.
But it wouldn't be high enough. And so it would be this like mediocre vibe.
Right. Because we're huge TV fans. And like right now, we're basically just trying to get across the writing and the acting. We're not like focused on the cinematography and like all that stuff.
We're
but
doing
we
that.
love
We're doing
that.
enough to get by, but it's not like the focus at all.
So I feel like it's like I feel like YouTube would almost be like the mediocre. You're like what you were saying.
Yeah,
It'd be like
and
the
we
medium.
hate mediocrity. Like we want to watch the most masterful TV shows. Like if something feels like so, like we turn it off within like 10 minutes. Like it's got to be great, or else we're like, why are we filling our brain with like a mediocre art? You know, like and it sounds like we're snobbish, and maybe we are, but like, yeah, I think it's just we just love that what do you call it? That art form. So
So I don't know, but
Yeah.
I also I don't know. I don't think we have I don't know why YouTube just feels wrong to put skits on right now. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's like I don't even follow like I don't know.
Like
maybe
we mostly use YouTube to like learn,
Mm.
and maybe entertain a little. I guess for me, maybe not you as much, but we have our skits on YouTube. But yeah, I don't know if we'd want to do like
on shorts. Yeah,
I don't know if we'd want to do like
that's a good
middle
question.
form.
Right.
Yeah,
Like a show. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense though. I think most people feel how you feel what they use YouTube for, and yeah, it's like go big or go home. You're not going to make a YouTube.
Yeah, I think we just stay. I think we would just stay posting these 1 minute episodes.
Yeah, it's more of a big fish situation on TikTok right now because there's not many people doing like we just did part 50 of the poly couple on TikTok, so it feels like I haven't seen anybody doing like that many parts to like a skit series on TikTok, so it feels like we're a big fish like situation there. Whereas if we went to YouTube, we'd be like competing against like the top comedic creators or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing you brought up, you were talking about we were looking for actors and whatnot. When we so we want to have some more first date, like, and just as an example, like a first date scene. We used to sort of just tell each other the story of our first date in the skits, but it's been really fun to work with other people, and so we were like, it'd be nice to show those as skits, and actually show a person. But we have worked with like an actor before who's just like, a monogamous person who's just like filling a role. And there's just not quite the feeling that we want out of it. And so we were thinking maybe we could try to find people that are actually poly or that actually want to move, normalize polyamory with us or like move it forward. And so I went on a dating app and I was on Field, and I was trying to find if anyone wanted to like be in a short skit with us. And I don't know, maybe I'm using the app wrong. I mean, the thing is I'm still open to meeting people, and like if they're poly, all the better. But yeah, it's been really hard because even though I like very much state it in my profile, like very simply, that this is kind of what I'm looking for right now, all the messages I get, or not all, but a lot of them are like, hey girl, like what's your fantasy, and just really really sexually forward messages that are just like completely disregarding what I'm asking for, what I'm like looking for. And it's hard because I'm literally, this is like supposedly my community, and I'm like, they're not listening to me, they're not and these are all men, they're not like respecting what I'm saying, they're not listening to what I'm saying, and they're just disregarding and skipping straight to like sex. And or like they'll be like, what are you going to give me, like, and they don't mean it in a way of like, are you going to pay me? They mean it in a way of like, am I going to get that date? And it's like, I'm not trading myself here for like it's just very
but it is funny that
we're trying it on a dating app. But
Field could be so tough. Yeah,
I mean, it's just like, and that's honestly how a lot of people are when I'm on there for dating as well. Like it just, they skip right to the sex, and you're like, what I don't know. It's hard for me because that's just never how I've operated with people, with connection. It's always that's something that comes later. That's something that develops for me, like the desire develops. It's not like right away. So it's been weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's so many people too just match everyone and then blanket text everybody. They're just definitely not even reading. And I mean, not to give feel like a bunch of crap. I think that, you know, it's one of the only spaces that's not like a party centric platform, like a lifestyle lounge or like a Cassidy, because people always ask me like, where can I meet, you know, people online? So I'm always like, Fields is kind of the one, unless you guys have any others to recommend. But I think too, it just takes people, like sexuality, well, sex and all of that is almost like the entryway point, I feel like, for a lot of people into non-monogamy, because those are the things in relationships that we tend to, like, our society almost normalizes it, that like that dies down and that's normal, and then you stay with this person forever and ever, right, as we were saying. So that's the thing that's repressed the most, I feel like, for most people, is like their sexual expression, which is literally your life force energy, right, your passion. And so that's what comes out, especially when people first get into it. It's like, for many, it's like they're just like kind of, I don't know, jumping out of the cage almost, at least some populations. And then I think it takes a while, yeah, to sort of to like steep into the like, oh, okay, this can actually be about like true connection. And that's actually safe. It's not going to like, doesn't mean that my partner and I have to break up. Like if you kind of make the journey to polyamory. And then, you know, I think when you're at our stage where you've been practicing it for like 8-9 years is when you really settle in and are looking for community and just looking for real relationships that can be, you know, can all coexist, or can be like multiple people in one relationship and have connection or romance, or even just like super platonic fulfillment that sometimes is sexual, but sometimes is nurturing and sometimes is mentory. And, you know, there's just so many different ways once you kind of clear out all of the automatic traumatic responses to different types of relationships, and you can just like be in them and feel safe in them. So because I see so much of the same thing. I mean, the first, I was off for a while and then went back on when I launched the podcast, because I'm like, well, I know a lot of people see the podcast if I just put it on Fields, you know? So I just like put it out there. And same thing, it's like, I mean, I don't even know what my profile says right now because it's been a good 6 months since I've checked it, but it's probably a ton of people who are just trying to date when I'm just like trying to promote. Not really. I am still open to dating, at least for the next year. I'm about to have kids, starting a family, so we'll see that
Oh,
probably.
wow. Congrats.
Not that it is. Thank you. I know. Interesting times.
I like what you were saying with how people normally get into polyamory. Like I'm kind of hoping that, because that's how we did it too. It was like did the sexual thing, but I'm hoping that now. Oh, we just got a package. I'm hoping that because there's so much more information online and it's being normalized in media, that it doesn't have to be that way. Because I don't know, like from the younger crowd, like the early 20s or even teens that are watching, like I hear that they're like, there's one like 13-year-old who was like, I'm trying polyamory now, and I'm like, bro, you don't even like know what a date is. Like you're 13.
Have you gone through
Yeah,
puberty?
right. So like, or I don't know how old he was.
Yeah.
Something like that. It felt like he was 13 or something. But like, I hope that it's just the idea that you can have relationships with multiple people, and you know,
and they can
that kind of thing.
mean, they can be different levels. They can,
And it doesn't have
involve
to just be
different things.
sexual. I wish like we knew that
in the
going
beginning.
into
I mean,
it.
I think I did, because I wanted just deeper connections with
Right.
people, and like I would get a lot of feelings really quickly for people, and that could just be like a friend. It could be of any sex person. It's just like I just really like someone, or I really care about them, or I want to be close to them, or I want to see them a lot. Like that's just how I've always been. And but it's, yeah, it's kind of, to me it's weird that like sex has to always come with I don't know, like there have been times where I've really liked someone, but I haven't necessarily wanted to be sexual with them, and it's kind of feels like an all or nothing. By the way,
Yeah.
society like says a relationship is. So I don't know, like
or just how men work.
or just or maybe just how men work. But yeah.
Yeah, but not all, because everyone's so different. I love what you're hitting on. I mean, my partner, Lauren, who is like my other full-time partner. So, for people who are listening that might not know, I'm married to a man, my husband, Pasha, and then Lauren is a woman, and we've been together for 3 years. And we are like, at this point in our relationship, barely sexual. I mean, like, months can go by. But we're still so intimate, and I want to spend all my time with her, and we do so much together, and there's still like a lot of sweet intimacy. Like, we kiss on the mouth, and we're, just very like into each other, but it's hardly ever sexual. It's so wild, and just to normalize that is like normal. So I really appreciate what you're saying, Dana. And just to like put a cap on the whole younger generation, it's really promising. It's really inspiring to know that, like, hopefully, because they're not like learning and having like the monogamy ingrained in them so deeply, that they won't have to unlearn it and then unpack it and enter in like sex and then evolve. I think the way that we have, it sounds like we have a very similar like timeline and story. We're the same age, for the most part. So
that is really
it's
cool.
cool. It's cool. And I think
like about your relationship. And it's also interesting because I'm sure you guys didn't like plan that relationship, that you weren't like, I want to be sexual in the beginning with someone, and then I want it to die down, and I want to like barely have that type of intimacy, but have all the other like, I'm sure that wasn't a plan. I'm sure it just morphed. And that's what's so
never.
funny is I feel like people on these
Yeah.
apps are literally messaging being like, I want this and I want to try that and I want to do this and this is my type and this is and like they're saying all the things they want. And it's like you have no idea what you're gonna end up wanting.
There's nothing
from
wrong with
different
them
people
wanting to try.
Sure. Trying things is one thing, but like I don't know, it always comes off on field like that everyone's just like, this is what I want, and if you don't fit exactly this, like it's not gonna work. And to me, like Daniel and I have so many opposites. Like if we were on an app, there's absolutely no way we would match because of how much opposite shit we we do with our time, and we ended up being great partners.
I would definitely swipe on you.
Oh, thanks, boo. But then we probably would get into it and find like one thing that doesn't work and be like, well, I don't watch sports, or whatever, and that would be it. That's how people see things a lot today. It's kind of sad.
I would actually love to ask, because I think I try to listen through the lens of people who listen to the show. And, I don't actually ask this a lot when I have couples on, but what does make you amazing partners, right? Because that's some of the like devil's advocate that we always get. Why stay together if you just want to, have all these relationships with other people? And so to hear you say, okay, we have like these, on paper, major incompatibilities.
Like, what are the good things?
Yeah. No, I mean, I clearly know that there are a ton because, I have my relationship as well, and I can see it. I'm watching you two together and just seeing what you've built and seeing that it's from the outside a great partnership. So yeah, what would you say keeps that bond, and what is, I guess, the bliss or the happiness factor between
I
the
think
two
one
of
of the
you?
biggest things is how we think. So we think about things very differently. So we're always surprising each other with like new information of like how to see a situation or like what to do in a situation. We have really different strengths. So
we're complementary.
Yeah, if we hit a problem, like one person, we're not only are we talking about totally different aspects of the problem, but we're able to fix different aspects of the problem. So like together we fix the problem. Whereas if I was alone or if he was alone, like I don't know if he would see enough or if I'd see enough of the other side of like how to see something. So that happens all the time. And then
I think we're lucky.
In what way?
I mean, I think we're lucky that we have such opposite, that we're such, this is so lame, but like one of my partners referred to it as our Lego piece.
Aww.
Like, or whatever. The Lego piece fits.
Oh.
Like we're alike in all the right ways and we're unalike in all the right ways, so that we complement
But I don't necessarily think that there has to be a right and a wrong. Because sure. There's also things that we're different in that annoy the shit out of each other. Sure. And like that is also a thing.
But because we're polyamorous.
It's not perfect.
Yeah, but those are all things that
you could also get from
we
other
could work
people,
on, right?
Or you could just like get it from yourself somehow, you know, depending on what it is. But
like even without the polyamory, I think like if we were locked into like monogamy, like forced into it, like we would probably figure out a way to make that work still.
Yeah.
Like I think we would be a really lucky couple
we were,
regardless of the polyamory.
Yeah, 8 years monogamous. So it's
Right.
not like it wasn't possible. It's just, you know, I think we've found much more happiness and like openness and freeness and less fear in our relationship when we opened it up, which is so funny because I think a
Right.
lot of people think polyamory would bring more fear, but it does the total opposite. So, like, I just watched a Snapchat, or not a Snapchat, I just watched a TikTok where this couple, they've been together for 8 years and they look like super in love, and, you know, they show all their honeymoon pictures and stuff like that. You know, they're kind of like that perfect looking couple. And there was a video where they list their rules and they have like a row of things to talk about. So like one is like Snapchat, and the other one's like girl or guy best friends, or like, and they went down the list and were like girl and guy best friends. Like we don't have those. And like you could see on both of their faces, there was always this like slight threat, slight fear, slight like a slight ownershipy vibe.
Mhm.
And they'd be like, there would be no reason to have that, would there? And the other one would be like, absolutely, because if you have a guy best friend, like what is really going on there? And like it was just a lot of this weird tension and uncomfortableness.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and it was real. I say I was going to show it to you later, but yeah, and
it's like, why didn't you show this to me?
Yeah, well, with each, and like there was like a passwords topic, and they were like, yes, so I think I should have your password, and he was like, yeah, definitely, and he was like, because if you didn't give it to me, that would be very strange, wouldn't it? And it was just like the whole thing was a threat underlying, not just from one, but from both. Like with each new topic, the other person would be more threatened, would like come at it with a little more like aggression. Right. And it was just
this actually sorry, this sounds like it was probably like a premise for one of your monogamous couple
well, we're
skits
about I had so many ideas that I was like, I can't wait to show this to Daniel, and to like, and you know, we're not gonna like stitch them and then shit talk their like problems or what we think is wrong or any of that. Like I'm not gonna be a part of any of that shit. But we do get ideas from other people's, like what I would call a toxic, like, or a very fearful place of, you know, a monogamous relationship, and we make videos that sort of inspire the opposite.
Oops, wait, hold on one sec. We had low battery. Wait, hold on one sec.
You want to plug it in?
Yeah.
Plug it in, plug it in. What is that from?
We're good.
All good.
Anyway, I don't even know what I was talking about, but that was thought.
This episode is brought to you by Glade Plugin. Plug it in, polyamory scent, which probably is a bit of patchouli and vetiver and cherry blossom.
I haven't heard of 2/3 of those things, but I'm looking forward to smelling them.
Cherry blossoms.
No, I've heard that one.
Yeah. One thing, you know what? One thing that I did want to ask you, and we talked about this earlier. You know, I have a hard time talking about like very explicit sex acts on this show. And I've dabbled a little bit because I think, you know, normalizing that it's okay to talk about that is sort of part of my journey and my crusade, and like accepting myself as a woman who can be very sexual and doing that openly. But it's challenging for me. And I noticed that you really don't talk about those things either. You know, your platform is a lot of comedy and just really informative and just really showcases a lot of dynamics and I think just like human nature in general and how people receive you and how, you know, even like your friends respond, which is really cool. Is there a reason that you keep it relatively PG?
I would just say there's such a bias against polyamory from people that are just like not, they just don't know enough about it, so they assume, and the normal assumption is that we're like sex crazed. So like, for example, you know, like we'll have a friend text us, you know, we'll text with a friend and we'll be like, oh yeah, like we're coming down with something, we got a cold, and they'll be like, oh, it's that polyamory, huh? Like there's things like that come out where you're like, what? Like it happens all the time. Or like I was written Yeah.
That really like
Yeah, and
friends
we'll
will
just be
say
like,
that to you?
"Wow, okay."
Wild.
And then they'll be like, I was written up on Newsweek, and my dad was like, "I would love to share it with your grandpa because no one in our family's ever been in Newsweek, but it's about porn, so I guess I can't share it." And it's like, it's not at all about porn, but okay, like whatever you feel comfortable with.
I
So
think one of the best examples that illustrates this is we watched that show called Mrs. America. We love TV, so it's like a lot of our references. But there's a show called Mrs. America, which is about Phyllis Schlafly. And it was like about the feminist movement in the '70s, whatever. And they were trying to
they were trying to like
change.
They wanted some of the bills to have like more of an equal, like they were
What
the
was
bills.
That bill?
It didn't have to do with
I forgot what it was
divorce
called.
and the.
Well, the point is that they were trying to do too much. The feminists were
there was like one of the head people was like, we just want to go for this one bill because it needs to be one thing at a time. And then there was like a lot of other women being like, well, we also want to bring in this, and we want to bring in gay rights, and we want to bring in all these different things. And they were like, no, we can't do all of that. We got to do one at a time. We have to
concede on some of these for now, but otherwise. And so they ended up losing everything.
They lost
because they tried too hard.
There were too many groups trying to come in and be like, normalize everything at once.
Honestly, like, we did the same thing in our music career. I think we were too like radical. Like, we were talking about polyamory. We were being like sexual with a lot of it too.
We tried rapping.
We tried lots of things, and like, I think when you're too, it's like you kind of have to spoon feed the public. It's like, so I don't know. I mean,
so the minute things will get too sexual in our skits is the minute we're gonna get so much more hate, so much more people being like, "Oh yeah, because polyamory is just sex," and like that is not at all what we're trying to push. Mm-hmm. We're trying to push. Really, we kind of picked a lane, which is why do you control your partner's feelings? Why do you control your partner's body? And like that is the first thing we're trying to like, I don't know,
dismantle.
Yeah, and like, sure, a lot of people can have a lot more sex, and that can be part of it, but like that is not the thing we're gonna try to push first, because that's.
And not to mention, like, TikTok, you have to keep it PG anyway.
Yeah.
And like we actually did push the boundaries. We did start talking about like deeper issues, like sexual issues, and we got flagged, and we almost got like canceled, and we had to delete the episode and like issue an apology, because we're making 1 minute videos, and like you have to include all the context you need in that 1 minute video. Even if you make a part 2, or you write it in the comments where you explain
there's gonna be a part
what
2.
You were talking about, it doesn't matter. Like, we got stitched by big creators like who like showed a clip of our video and then talked shit about us for like a minute, because of like what we were talking about in that video or whatever. So like,
but there just wasn't enough context for them, so they just judged extremely harshly. Like,
so we've learned to play the game. Like, we've learned that like we have to be careful about the kind of content we make, and knowing that when we're making a minute-long video, we have to provide X amount of context, whatever. So it's just a very complicated, like in our pilot that we wrote, there's a lot more sex, because if we got an HBO show or something like that, there's more time to explain it, to explain all of it. Yeah. So, but we're not leading with sex as like, sexual freedom, as like, there's plenty of people who are way better at that, like coaches and whatnot, who
it's kind of like someone else's like torch to carry. Like, other people are carrying that torch, a lot of other people, and so we're kind of like, there's something missing. There's something that we could fill a hole, like a problem we could fill a hole, and that's what we're trying to do with sort of, I guess you could call it vanilla. We're trying in a vanilla way to promote polyamory and normalize it. I don't know.
Yep, I hear that. I feel like I always say Open Late is the most boring non-sexual podcast about sex that there is. But I don't even think this is a sex podcast. It's like relationships and dynamics, and usually talking about how to personally grow through your relationship. Because I have a lot of monogamous listeners as well, who I think can pick up a lot from just the way that we live in our relationships and sort of the foundations and the principles. So I so love you saying that the core of it is like, why do you control your partner's emotions and why do you control your partner's body? Two incredible things to examine, which is like what most relationships in our society are really like built on those two things. It's like the ownership and the codependency of I'm responsible for your emotions, and also, you know, your emotions are going to constantly affect me. Like we can't coexist as independent people and have this relationship and just be our own sovereign person. So I appreciate so much the work that you both do, and I can't wait to see more of it and maybe be a part of it. I would love to. I'm just very inspired by it. And after this episode, I'm going to be asking for TikTok coaching.
Nice.
Need your.
We can share.
Yeah,
we can share with you
whatever.
too.
Yeah, whatever your hourly rate is, I'm ready, because I definitely haven't figured it out, and it just looks like so much fun. That is the kind of content that I feel like it, you know, is great to create because it's digestible for people, which is a double-edged sword, right? Our attention span's getting smaller and smaller. But if you're teaching something really positive and really valuable and really, I think, just can be very uplifting for people to find, oh, there are other people out here that feel the way I do or think the way I do. And like, maybe I am normal, you know, to see us out there doing what we're doing, then it's all worth it. Then social media is worth it, in my opinion. One thing I did want to ask, because you just touched on this, you know, you're like, we're staying in our lane. There's a lot of other people who are putting out great content focusing on these areas. Who are some of your favorite, you know, either polyamory content creators or just other good resources in this space that you've found along the way, if you want to share?
Well, we like Pursuit of Polly. They're really cool, and we've hung out with them, and
We relate.
they
on a
kind
lot
of took a
ways.
hiatus, so I don't know where their content is going now, but they're doing a lot of. They have a lot of stuff they're working on, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they're coming up with.
Yeah.
What's coming for them? Pursuit of Polly. The reason we took a sigh, I think, is because so much of it.
I know. I was like, okay, we'll just cut this question.
No, it's fine. No, keep it in. I don't give a shit. Like, I will gladly hate on a lot of the polyamory community because here's the thing. I mean, we're all like purging forward but like a lot of the pioneers are bitter because there's so much hate against polyamory, and then there's like the polyamory community. What is the polyamory community? People use it as the derogatory term for like the gatekeepers who are like, you know, making like the terms are so complicated or whatever.
And you need to have your exact terms correct, or else you're gonna get like shunned. Like we've been sort of not shunned, but like, you know, talked down to, and just kind of like, a lot of the people in the poly community are often shutting their doors in your face for you even trying to be a part. If you say anything wrong, they're going to be like, you're doing it wrong. Like, we don't approve. So like, we've had a lot of that happen towards us by the so-called like leaders of the poly community. I
get this vibe that they don't like what we're doing. I don't know. It's just you know,
like they don't condone it. I don't really understand why.
Yeah.
But like, you know,
I was going to say, do you have any inkling of why?
Here's what I think. I think that there are people who've been doing this for a lot longer than us, and they have not taken advantage of TikTok as well as we have. And they are bitter about, you know, because we are too. Don't get it twisted. We're bitter about the world being not polyamorous. Like, we understand too. Like, we get all the hate. We get all the hate too. And like, you know, there's just, and even the books we've read, like
they have this tone.
There's a bitterness. So the thing is like Polysecure. Is that the book we read? That one might be the best book about polyamory out so far. But at the end of it, I feel like she unsold polyamory to people who may have been considering it. Like they
always try to
lock
close
it.
the door at
They
the end.
lock
They're
it.
always like,
Yeah.
and if you're not, you're not.
Yeah, it was like here's like she was doing so well, and then at the end she was like, so the polyamory is really hard, and it may not be for you. And like we want to say to people, like anybody can try
Anyone
it.
Can
like
try it or
like
be it.
yes,
if they want
every
to.
every relationship is
chill,
hard. But she made it sound so hard.
Well, like that there was a line in the sand.
Yeah,
like you either are or you aren't, and like.
And because she's been through it's sort of like that conservative mindset of like, you know. Well, whatever. Anyway,
to us, it's a choice. Like some people can call it an orientation, and I'm not gonna like fight them about it. But like, I think when people use it as an orientation, it's often against someone. So like, if a wife comes out to her husband and is like, "I really believe in polyamory, and this is like how this speaks to me," they're like, often the man will be like, "Well, I'm not polyamorous and you are, so like what are we supposed to do about that?" It's kind of like, you're not going to force me to be polyamorous when I am not. Like when that's not the situation at all.
We're talking about principles.
This is a choice. This is like a belief. This is you can consider it. You can read about it. You can learn about it.
Obviously, it's not for everybody too. Like I understand that it's going to be too hard for some people to be able to do it.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I think we should err on the side of like, is it something maybe people could try? You know, like we're trying to think optimistically about it. Whereas like a lot of the gatekeepers are like, I'm polyamorous, and like you're probably not, or it just is what it kind of feels like. I think my favorite creator is that dude who has that shirt that says "Normalize Polyamory." Is that Polyam Proud?
The red-haired guy with the glasses.
Yes, I love him.
He's probably my favorite.
He's very intelligent.
The thing is like it's hard to honestly answer because we're so not sick of it, but it's like we've
reached out to like some of them.
I'm saying like we don't watch. I don't like watching the poly content because I'm living that, and it's like ugh, like I don't need to hear about this.
You don't need to know more. Like you kind of feel like you're already. We've read all these books. We're making content about it all the time.
Right.
So like
I wish we had them 8 years ago.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say. I wish we had Polyam
so
Proud.
Helpful. All
8 years ago
would have been so helpful when we needed it. But now we're kind of past it a little bit, and we're creating it all the time, so it's already.
I mean, there's some good tips that come up here and there, like where I'll be like, "Oh, that's a good way to put it." Like Annie Undone, I think is one of the ones we'll see on Instagram. I think she has good tips sometimes. I don't know. There's different.
We actually have a lot of Instagram accounts that we like.
Yeah, I just can't even keep up.
But they all have poly in their name, and it's very. They're all very similar sounding. It's hard to remember.
Yeah. It's Polyam Fam. Polyam Fam is the guy that we were talking about. Yeah. He's really good. But I mean, I can appreciate so much you both speaking into the gatekeeping of polyamory. And I think every community has this, the older generation that's like, we fought so hard and we got really shit on. And like, oh, don't come in here. Like, it's not the Wild West. There's no unicorn hunting. And like, it's like, okay, I understand that, you have gone through all this and grown and developed your standards and this and that. But for many people, like as we were talking about earlier, like joking about the steps to it, like for the masses, there's going to be this entry point and you've got to fuck up. Like you've got to do it wrong. And it's going to be messy along the way. Like, I mean, as I'm saying this, I'm like, it was rather easy for Pasha and I. And we did a lot of things right. And we just got really lucky, I think, too, in the way that we opened. And we had a really solid foundation of personal development work, like right as we were opening. So it was very different for us. But of course, like we've had challenges. But for most people, they're going to fuck it up before they get it right. Like anything else, like any career, like any endeavor, like any other relationship, monogamous relationships that last forever, where people work out their childhood traumas on each other in the first couple of years, right? It's like, why do we put a magnifying glass on just this? Because because it's new, right? And because it's, it's out there for everybody to sort of poke at right now because it's so other, and or at least it was for a long time. I think we're finally starting to like hit the tipping point of it being a bit more accepted. And I mean, if you just look at, the amount of popularity of, all of us new creators popping up, and, how much it's being like researched and searched and attempted. So it's good things, but it definitely comes with like people shooting arrows. And I think it's like a great conversation to have around the gatekeeping of it, because it's not fair. But you can also see, like, you can see why they're bitter, and you can see it's like both sides are right, in their version of it, the way that they're looking at it.
No, well, I think that also, like, because they have to make so much content, sometimes it comes off like rules that they're like they'll make quotes, Instagram post like quotes and stuff like a relationship isn't blah 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 blah, and it sounds like they're making rules for polyamory, but I think it's just like they're trying to come up with
More
like a ton of
content.
content. It's very hard. We
To just
understand,
keep coming up with content.
like.
But at the same time, it's like most of our hate, like stitched videos, were just from other poly people being like, taking a 5-second clip and being like, so they're wrong because blah 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 blah, and like they do everything wrong, and it's so silly because they took one sentence out of context and they think that that is how we feel, and it's never like right. So it's hard that it's the actual community that we are trying to fight for that is trying to tear us down and make us look bad. So, I think that's why we've had a bit of a hard, I don't know, like as much as it's a community, like the people that I really feel a community for are the people that are commenting and being like, I'm monogamous, but this really speaks to me. Or like, I just started being polyamorous and this has really helped like learn how to, move forward in my relationship with my partner. Like those are more the people that I'm feeling a community with than like the big, I almost said companies, but like the big content creators, because for some reason it's the same thing in the artist world. If I saw an artist that I really liked, I would go after the show, I'd go over and be like, that was fantastic. Like, I'd love to come to more of your shows. Also, I'm an artist and like, whatever, let's get coffee and like talk about the industry or whatever. But what usually happens is it's a competitive thing. And they're just like, I don't want to be around you. Like you are my competition. It's like, it's me or you, I'm not going to support you because what if that takes from me? And that's a little bit how it feels. It's like we could be all supporting each other. We could all be growing together. Like we've tried to like talk about other people's, things that they did, their book or their, whatever it is that they're like pushing. And, we don't get like a comforting response back from them, or
it feels competitive.
It just feels competitive.
It
so
does.
It's really too bad because that's not where our mindset is at.
This is like interesting for me to hear, because I know like a little bit of it in just the like functionality of how people move through the world, like as whatever polyamorous practicing people in relationships, but not this sort of business side of it or growth, growing your platform side of it. So this is really my first time hearing a lot of this, and it's very interesting, and I appreciate the perspective. It's like, this has been such a great interview. Thank you guys so much, because I'm learning a lot. As this show is like only 8 months old, and so to hear this, it's like, oh fuck, guys, we've like eliminated scarcity mindset in all of these other areas. How is it now going to be like you're holding on to this scarcity mindset in this like one aspect over here, when usually it's like the relationship portion of their life that most people have a bit of a scarcity mindset with, like love or with affection or security, whatever it is. But man, I can't wait for this to air. I'm like so excited, just because it's such a different perspective. You two have really given, I think, me and just everybody listening a lot to consider when it comes to, the sort of being in the public eye side of, polyamory and non-monogamy. And I so appreciate your time. And I'm not kidding. I want to hang out and I want to be part of your content if you let me. So yeah, I mean, this is I could talk to you guys forever, but just a little end cap. Tell everybody, of course, I'm going to link everything in the show notes for people listening, everything we've talked about. But for those who are just audio, could you name your Instagram and your TikTok and anything else that you'd like to share where people can find you?
We're Dana and the Wolf on everything. YouTube, Instagram, Vero, TikTok, and
Twitter,
then the Wolf. The Wolf comes from Daniel's last name, Daniel Wolf. I'm Dana Lynn Hobson on all we have our personals as well, and that's pretty much it. If you want to look for us.
Thank you so much, Dana and Daniel. It was great to officially meet you.
You too.
You as well.
To do so in person soon. Thank you.
Great time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, my lovers, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Dana and the Wolf as much as I did. Dana and Daniel are so cool. I'm so happy they live in LA. I'm not joking. Look for me on the Poly Couple series because I am going to go see if they'll cast me because it sounds like so much fun. I did want to touch on one other thing. We talked a little bit about, the upsides and the downsides of social media on this episode. We went in deep into these topics that we often don't cover on the show. I think it's worth saying if you are struggling with, bullying in an online space or just not even realizing that it's bullying, but taking in a lot of negativity, then definitely talk to somebody about that. Your mental health is so important. And I would also recommend, as Dana did, like I'm taking that, feedback and that guidance of you do not have to answer. I've stopped answering, any of the sort of hateful or shameful comments that I get online because it really isn't, it's not worth our time. Unless it's somebody who's really curious and is interested in changing their lifestyle, then we don't have to do it. And as much as we talked about TikTok, I wanted to remind you, I am on there, even though I'm not putting anything out at the moment, but maybe by the time this episode comes out, I will. But where I am is Instagram. So make sure you're following me there because I put out a lot of fun, funny, and educational content. I talk about my real life situations, and I don't want you to miss out on any of that, as well as all the free resources that we have. We have a relationship style quiz now. We've got the Open Late Dictionary, and we also have our WhatsApp community, Open Talks. It's a free platform where you can join and meet other people who are along this journey, hear their insights and their personal experiences, and all learn from each other in this way. And I pop in there and I give coaching. So don't miss out on any of those free resources. And as always, take a moment to rate and review the show. It's how other people can find it. And I appreciate it so much. I love you all. And I'll see you next week.